Probably slightly riskier than I otherwise might have liked, but at the end of the day, if you're alive, then it probably went pretty well, all things considered. So let's hope that that's the worst that Swamp can throw at us, at least in the early part here, without anything truly horrendous coming out. And we'll keep her going. You can probably swap Amulet now. That is a fantastic point. I'm tempted to keep it, if just because in that exact situation it was beneficial to us. So if we break it down, it's mostly bog bodies and the druids that it would be effective against. On the other side of things, it does help prevent the harpoons from hitting us. From the swamp worms themselves, those get reflected back as well. And that one can be kind of nice, just so that we don't get completely pulled out of position into a horrifying experience. On the other hand of it, though, of course, with a Guardian Spirit Amulet, we get 28 extra health, essentially. Plus the extra regen, because both the MP regen and the HP regen will kind of work as a cohesive force together. I think it might have convinced me. The only other thing that I'll keep in mind is that Guardian Spirit does deprive us of our mana points, and we might want the ability to drop a sudden panicked disaster area at any given moment. But we're not in too dangerous of a situation right at this instance. I think I'm happy to experiment just a tiny bit and see how this treats us. It's also, of course, nice that each and every time we are hit here, we go into a defensive curl, and that's been doing pretty wondrous jobs at giving us even more AC in order to protect against, bringing us up to 36, which you love to see. And Stair Dancing, of course, reigns supreme in terms of fighting strategies in this game, so that was a much easier way to take care of what could have been a life or death scenario. As we, wow, come across like the exact same monsters. I mean, one of the nice things about the Ghost Crab is that our cloud immunity does extend to the spectral clouds, which I'd kind of forgotten about. So, besides the fact that they bring in a bunch of specters, that's not actually the end of the world for us. Oh, and there were 2 husks. Huh. Well, in that case, let's just get smacked right to the face, I guess. Still not too bad overall. Hello, my tyrant leech friends, down with the tyrannical rule of the leeches. And so here are the swamp worms that I was kind of enjoying, but I should actually mention, or I should actually think about the fact, even, that we still have an incredible shielding score for blocking projectiles. So even without reflection, it's not the be-all end-all necessarily. And Fenstrider, I'm still scared of, but for the most part, I have a deep-seated fear of Fenstriders because on one of our great player accounts or attempts here, runs as it were, we had no poison immunity, and it was absolutely brutal. Wow, my tongue and mouth were very much struggling with parsing that sentence. But not too bad. Wait, excuse me? Are we... Oh, dang it. I don't have time for you right now. I was gonna go free some friends. But we'll get away from the trees so that we're not getting absolutely slapped around by the flora here, and instead I want to save this guy, but I'm actually gonna wait. Let's clear the floor. Let's not let this human immediately run off into a dangerous situation and get themselves killed. I know the argument of let's protect them from themselves maybe makes us sound like a bit of a tyrant leech ourselves, but I think it's an overall good here to make sure we protect this prisoner to the fullest extent of our abilities before releasing them. Perfect. And you're free! Go, my minion. Or that's cool. If you just want to chill, that's alright too. I mean, we took out all the enemies. Honestly, you do you now. But not too bad. Swamp 2 in the bag. And perfect timing on some cold clouds there. I do also keep forgetting, we saw briefly in one of the larger encounters there where we were absolutely surrounded, that Quaslal does give us some special resistance boosts. When we take damage of a certain kind, we are then given resistance to it, 1 pip. So in that fight, we saw ourselves gain a bit of cold resistance, but that's definitely something that will be kind of helpful in the background throughout the course of the run in general. And I won't always be pointing it out when it does hit. And so for our level up, I think I'll toss away into Dex again, preparing a bit for the future there when we start training into dodging. As well as kind of the overall benefits that it gains anyone who's fighting hand to hand for the most part. And not too bad. Perfect timing on the grab there. Worm. Not at all a dumb move on your part. Not too bad. I'm worried that I'm growing complacent here. That's always the concern when things are going too smoothly in the game. It's when I start tensing myself up instead of the game doing it for me, just because I don't want to be caught flat-footed when all of a sudden things turn around in a drastic way. But I can also gloat a little bit or be a little bit happy about how things are going thus far. So here goes, down into Swamp 4 already. A half-decent position here. I'm not sure what kind of fight we want to see here. Hello, Mara. I was just about to say that if we fight against the Liarnan Hydra or something like that, it will be fairly straightforward because we have a Phantom Mirror, which means we can always just bring our... oh, dang it. Rampage is going to be the death of me. But we can bring down the Liarnan Hydra pretty straightforwardly with just some mirror action there. But the reason why Mara plays into it is because our #1 defense against uniques is usually to do so. Still probably for the best here. Let's wait out a few turns. I want to make sure all the summons disappear and that Mara is alone by themselves again. Perfect. And then we should still be in a fairly decent position. Let's clone you. Follow that up with... I could do Condenser Vein, but I might want to save that for the end vault here, and it won't necessarily do anything, depending on which elements we get, just because the resistances on Mara here are a little bit all over the place and all-encompassing. But we'll bring in as many friends as we possibly can, and then blast the Ghost Crabs, because while we're not affected by the Ghost Crabs, our friends kind of are. That'll give Mara some turns to step back up. Right, Mara? Please step into range so that I'm also blasting you. That'd be nice. Perfect. There we go. And that's all of our electric charges, but we shouldn't need any more beyond that. And now let's just absolutely gang up and beat the crap out of you, shall we? And it's that easy. We weren't even doing anything there. Our box of beast friends here, this wonderful mature weird bat, doing all the heavy lifting and taking out the real Mara as we were just swinging away at their clone. Not too bad though. Definitely could have gone a lot worse, to say the very least. And so we're back into the thick of things. I want to immediately take on the corrosive frog before we get corroded whatsoever here. We also want to be aware that if we start to get surrounded by too many monsters here, we have our Condenser Vein, as well as, of course, all of our God-given abilities. But it's looking like it'll be okay. Dang you, Rampage. One of these days, if not getting used to it happening in general, then at least using it on purpose instead of just always accidentally finding ourselves lurching towards enemies. Let's finish off the Spriggan with some undodgeable stuff here, just to lighten our load. And then, of course, we take out the Fire Element buddy next, just because it is one of our lacking resistances here. And we'll keep on going. Another Blinking Scroll. Perfect. That's exactly what we need, to say the least. And what do we have to deal with? It's looking like it's going to be the dragon end, I guess is the best way to put it, but where it's not necessarily the Liurnin Hydra themselves, but potentially just a huge vast area filled to the brim with a bunch of swamp drakes, worms, and dragons. We'll have to see. I've been surprised before here. We'll start blasting. I actually meant to hit you. Wanted to try and make it so that the bloated body didn't make it to us, but I guess it's too late for that, so let's just step into it, take it right on the chin. Not too shabby. And onwards we go. All things considered, still a much better Swamp 4 than we've had in the past here. Though I'm waiting for the Liurnin Hydra to show up. Oh, hello Donald, you're not the Liurnin Hydra. Ideally, our Phantom Mirror will be back online, and in fact, mousing over it now, we can see that that does seem to be the case. Mirror is back online in time for any potential Liurnin hijinks. Let's do this. Donald, get the heck out of here. Please, sir. Perfect. Don't want to let ourselves get too surrounded, but as long as it's just these small fries, it shouldn't be too bad. It's mostly being surrounded by, you know, a full like 6, 8, 9-headed hydras that worries me. Otherwise, we are able to kill things relatively quickly so far on this character. And there they are. Hey, Liurnin. How's it going, pal? So, I'm hoping this works out as usual, because Liurnin Hydra is probably my favorite ending to Swamp, as long as you have a Phantom Mirror. Because for the most part, we click, and if we're lucky here, the Liurnin Hydra is just going to die. Unfortunately, it seems like our Hydra first attacked the 6-headed Hydra, but then let's see how many hits it gets in, shall we? Pretty close, so not quite. Because there was another enemy that took a couple of the attacks, normally, just that turn, you're guaranteed to kill for the most part, but I'll very happily take that. And we can instead just start blasting. There goes the Liurnin Hydra, dead in 2, and the rest of the vault should fall without too much more ado to it. One of these days we should not use the Phantom Mirror because it is a bit of a shortcut, and it's often really nice to show everyone watching out there the different ways that you're able to deal with the Liurnin Hydra. I mean, back in the day, you used to, or I used to always just try to net it if I wasn't able to do something like this. I'm not 100% sure if that still is fully applicable, or if the Liurnin Hydra is now too big to be netted, because that was before that change got implemented. Regardless, there we are, Rune 2 under our belt, and honestly not too much trouble to be had to get it. Here we find ourselves at an interesting conundrum. Do I want to switch down to a smaller shield in exchange for a reflection on the shield instead of my necklace? It would allow us to continue wearing the Guardian Spirit for a bit longer here. I think I'm pretty happy with where we're sitting right now, and we'll still be using the Reflection Amulet if we end up clearing like Elf, and potentially for the final section of the game as well. It's nice to have against spellcasters who are hurling a lot of high-powered spells your way. But I guess that will be a question for the future, and we don't have to worry about it too much right now. And instead, let's just start scoping out where we want to go next, shall we? Could head down to our vaults or to Elf. If we're going into Elf potentially, my main fear there is banishment and elemental attacks. Elemental attacks we can solve with the Scarf of Resistance that we left lying around. Unfortunately, raising our willpower to a better spot is a bit harder to do. We could switch out to this armor, decrease our AC by a decent amount, in exchange for that will plus. I mean, A ring male named Bien seems pretty good to me. That's a French joke for you francophones out there. And, you know what? I think that does kind of convince me in its own right. Elf is nice to clear if we're able to, just because it's fairly guaranteed to have a decent treasure haul and lots of options for the future here at the very least. Yes, if we're gonna potentially do that, we can look up our scarf. Where the heck did we leave that lying around? On D15. Well, let's take a little bit of a trek, shall we? Alternatively, Alright, it's too late now, but I just realized I potentially should have just gone down and cleared the last floor of lair. We never did fully explore lair 6, but we'll let this continue on for the time being. We shouldn't be in any risk of running against the Zot clock anytime soon here. And not too bad. So for our skills, shields is almost at the point of no penalty. Armor can probably stop training for the time being, as well as invocations. I think I'll turn off at 17. That's pretty solid for now. And instead, what I'd like to do is get throwing trained up a bit, so we can start relying on that a little bit more regularly. And what else? Maces and flails can continue going. I might even stretch it out all the way up to the requisite 16, now that it's looking more and more like we'll be continuing to use this Evening Star for the rest of our time in the dungeon here. And instead, let us drop ourselves I was gonna say like potions of magic, then I realized Guardian Spirit's kind of nice. We don't have any truly easy answers for stuff to throw on the ground. I guess Holy Word isn't too bad against Elf. It's unlikely we'll be facing off against too many demons, and if we are, they're usually summons, so that's more of a hightail it out of there and let them expire than anything else. The End of an Era is one heck of a title. Thanks for pointing that out. I don't pay enough attention. Wow. So we are the end of an era. The era of Zot is over. The era of Dongus is at hand. Do I actually use attraction potions? You usually dump them? That's actually a great point. I don't normally use them myself. And furthermore, the couple times I have used them, I've almost gotten myself killed. It's interesting with the Palentonga. I mean, it forces enemies into our clouds, which is kind of nice. So you know what? I think I will hold on to them here, because specifically we're heading to Elf, and for the final vault, what I'm imagining in my head at the very least is filling the entire end vault that we can see with a condenser vein cloud, and then making sure that enemies are getting sucked in. The only issue there is that that requires a gap, because if we can't see them, we don't suck them, I guess. But I am tempted to try my best to use them successfully once, because yeah, the last time I tried to use an attraction potion, very much was almost the death of me. So it might be a good idea, and in retrospect, I might be kicking myself for not listening to your side of things there. We'll see how she goes. All in all, I still think I will switch down another ring mail. Poison darts are probably obsolete now. I do believe that to be the case. It's tempting to keep them around as my garbage to just kind of attract attention of enemies, even though I guess when you're worshipping Quaslaw, you don't really have to worry about getting attention, do you? So in that regard, especially with the throwing training now being initiated, because that was kind of the second part of it, I very much agree with that, and that's a fantastic suggestion. So thank you for the help with the inventory management, because that's definitely where the game gets to me. I'm not very great at managing that, mostly because I refuse to hand off anything and just want to constantly carry each and every potential solution to future problems, because you never know what you might need in the upcoming bit here. But yeah, 52 slots seems like a lot until it isn't. Exactly, I very much have to agree with you there. the starting bit of the run where I'm just picking up everything and, you know, I'm carrying around so much crap that I don't even need this stuff. It's just extra little bits in the bag. Very much becomes a figment of the past as we start to get to this stage in the run where each and every object we run into is a new question. Of course, it is kind of nice to keep myself at a full inventory. Oops, I did actually want to ignore that game. Let's do that, please. It can be nice, though, just for that exact situation there, where it's a good reminder that there's something on the ground that you're not picking up. So oftentimes I'll pick stuff up off the ground and then not even notice that it's in my inventory until the crucial moments where I'm panicked and looking for each and every possible solution to the problems that arise themselves before us. But we'll have to see here. Atropa, I probably don't care about, so we will do a quick ignore on that. And let's keep it going. Ignite Poison immediately stands out to me because that's all I wanted last run. That's all I could have ever dreamed of finding on our knoll, and it didn't show up until the final moments. I believe it was on our escape with the orb that we finally found that, or just before. Playing an octopode and hoarding every single ring in the game so you can make the most optimal build possible. Yeah, and the last octopode I played was for the tournament, and for that one, my inventory was further exacerbated by the fact that I was carrying around artifact rings that I had no use for because I wanted to, by the end, have a full complement of artifact rings, a full tentacle complement of said rings. And so that was definitely taking up extra room that I didn't even necessarily have the capacity for. But no, hoarding is just too easy in games like this, because you never know when you might need something. It is truly a useful kind of hoarding for the most part. And speaking of artifact rings, that's a nice one. Yeah, maybe I should talk about them a bit more often, eh? But here we go, a bazaar, and this time, I'm putting on my thinking cap before we go in. Let's drop off anything that we don't immediately need, because I want all the room possible to potentially carry out some goodies with us. We have a decent amount of cash. This isn't a timed portal, so we could leave it. But I think I'm happy with our current bank here, and we should be able to buy at least any one thing that we truly need to get our hands on. And if there are multiple, then I'll just eat the costs, as it were. Let's check it out, shall we? Another spell shop. What else? See, there we go. Come on, artifact cloak. Don't do me dirty. Today's the day. And what else? We could check out the pair of ruined gloves. The way I see it, strength probably wouldn't be worth the switch off of Dex. Would anything? That's a bit tougher. Well, we'll make sure that that's the full area explored, and it does seem to be the case. You know what? If that's so, then we might as well buy it just for funsies. See what we get. Another pair of Dex gloves. Do these ones look any different? Oh, they have a bit of a red, kind of pinky hue with purple cuffs. Do archery gloves affect throwing? You know, I do not know the answer to that off the top of my head here. I'm trying to think of the wording for it, and it's not coming to the tip of my tongue. You know what, I'm going to potentially, on the side here, do a quick look up DCSS archery gloves. It does say ranged weapons. That's the wording of it here. So I would guess that that does actually fully apply to throwing as well. So definitely something that might be a bit more use for us. And in fact, there we go. Upon reading a bit longer, I did get confirmation on the wiki that it does in fact affect throwing. So that would actually be a nice brand to be on the lookout for, to say the least. Also, I checked out that, but not my new cloak. The Cloak of Lies. No, not super useful. In fact, not really at all. Strength +3 is really all that gives us based on the rest of our run layout here, but it's not the end of the world, of course. Didn't necessarily expect to get anything better out of this. So let's check it out. We have a book that has blink in it, so that's kind of interesting. I mean, we have evocable blink on a ring, I believe, so that's not too hard to switch out to in the middle of a fight. So maybe not worth the 440 odd gold. On the other side of things, we have spectacle. No lack of birds and stones, I don't think. I'm looking for something that potentially has apportation and like pass wall, or apportation and blink. Make it worth it in my books here, but it's not looking like it. Wereblood is the other one that we were potentially keeping an eye out for, because that's something that complements us well. We make a lot of noise already, so we don't have to worry about the extra noise caused by Wereblood, and instead it's essentially just not quite free, but very cheap slaying bonuses to kind of stack on top here. Necronomicon, hard pivot to necromancy. Oh yeah, I'm sure we'll be in lich form in no time. But okie dokie. In fact, what books or what spells are in this book? Yeah. Revivification, Necromutation, Death's Door. I'm sure we'll be at 20 odd Necromancy and 0 time flat. But no, it is, yeah, kind of tempting to get that Wereblood, but I think I will leave it alone for now. Just keep it simple. Straightforward here. Not too shabby. Hey, tiny fly. Tiny fly, get out of here. There's always one fly that only sneaks into my office when I'm streaming. I can be on this computer all day, every day, no problems whatsoever. But of course, as soon as we start to stream, the fly knows. Once it's time to shine here, 15 minutes of fame in the camera light. Okie dokie, let's keep on heading through here, hoping that we don't face too much more troubles over the course of Elf 2, even though we definitely breeze through that first floor for the most part here. We're also on a run, one of the rare runs that probably wouldn't have too much trouble dealing with the Hall of Blades, but also doesn't have too much need to risk it whatsoever. A lot of times I love to use the Hall of Blades as a resource for finding endgame weapons and stuff like that, because if you're struggling in that department, it can definitely be a huge boon. But it does not seem like that is going to be the case today. Anti-magic taking away all of our magic points, which isn't fantastic. It's not the end of the world though, as we take a pretty hard hit from the archers here. It's maybe about when I start making my retreat. Fortunately, with our reflection not being on, it's totally useless. Whoops, let's nip that thought in the bud right away. Because what I should do is head upstairs and switch over to this reflection amulet. Elf is one of the most clear, like, obvious sections to have the reflect ego for. Elf and Shoals both. Absolutely filled to the brim with ranged enemies and a whole lot of spellcasters at that. So this should help us out in spades, not just in preventing damage coming towards us, but also, of course, dealing extra damage as everybody's spells and attacks get immediately sent back their way. And we should be much better off now. In fact, it almost trivializes the fight that we had to run away from a moment ago. Of course, also, part of that is helped out by the spreading out of our enemies, but I like to take what little credit I can when things go well. Looks like this is the Hall of Blades, and it indeed is. Let's just pass that on by for the time being. Oh, a potion of experience. I almost never find these unless I'm going through ziggurat after ziggurat. I'll definitely take this. I also just realized, upon looking at my inventory, noticing, why do I have spots in my inventory all of a sudden? I didn't pick up all my crap. Apparently my brain can only handle one thing at a time today. Well, for this in particular, I think I'll just throw it all into maces and flails, trying to get us up to the min delay for our weapon here as soon as possible, even though we're looking to be in a fairly decent spot at 0.7. We'll instead head up and where did we find that bazaar? Up here. Let's run back and pick this stuff up. We are going to leave the poison darts as suggested, but resistance to negative energy I want, and our old armor I want, just in case we come up against any threats that AC might actually do some wonders against. Okie dokie. Absolutely flying through the floors now as we've managed to get our feet under ourselves. Let's hope that we can just continue to do so. Ooh, the Sphere of the Hall of Blades. What are you doing down here, sir? Maybe the sphere fell through a shaft. Lost its way from its home hall, as it were. Hello, friends. Get in a quick roll forward whenever we have the opportunity to, and otherwise, mostly just tap, 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 tap. Which is a blessing, really. You're in a good enough spot that you can tab through a bunch of powerful spellcasters. Can't really complain about much, can you? So onwards we go. Guess Elven Hall's 3. This is where it's tempting me to use one of our Scrolls of Magic mapping. We don't have quite as many as I'd necessarily like, but this is another section or branch, as it were, that it's definitely advantageous to know exactly where that end vault is, especially with, again, the amount of noise that we're constantly surrounding ourselves with. Oof. That hurt real bad. Acid, who knew? Well, in that case, I need to be careful here because I don't want to get hurled damnation coming my way. That will almost immediately end it with a bad roll. But it's still not the end of the line at the very least. Let's take a quick look at you. You're the whole reason why I'm wearing this anti-banishment armor. That corrosive bolt hurts like a son of a gun, eh? I guess 18 times 3 is 54, so technically lethal. And yeah, they definitely will not damnation with their allies nearby, which is fortunate for us. That's why I took the step towards the sorcerer, hoping to take advantage of that, but unfortunately, it might not matter in this specific case. So I think much like Cali Commuter's saying, I might be tempted to throw in a blink here. We've gone up to 7 in the meantime without having to use any, and it will just be a nice reset to the fight. You can just head straight down to the stairs here. They're not even too far away. And let's head on up and heal, shall we? Oh, hey, shop. I meant to check on you later. Didn't expect it to be so soon. Well, let's do that now, shall we? +0 plate armor of mental paralysis. I do wish that enchantment rating was higher, because I've been on the lookout, crossing my fingers that we'd run into an artifact plate armor of some kind, but don't know if that makes the cut for me. We're past some of the worst of the need for resistance to poison. I guess Zot definitely kind of needed it against the draconian packs and gold dragons on their own even. So ideally we do find a better source of it, but I don't think that this is our answer, seeing as how it would reduce our AC even further. Oh, not even further. It would increase it from this armor, but it would be 3 less AC than our usual armor that we like to wear. So maybe I'll mark it just in case. It might be a good backup for our future, but not in a hurry to get it figured out. Scale of willpower, any use? Definitely not bad, especially if this had any really bad negatives, like intelligence being lost. I don't mind whatsoever, but very much would have been an important thing to keep an eye out for. But I think this double pip is what settles it for me. Very cool build. You're going to try something like this later. Love to hear it. Well, definitely let me know how it goes when I see you in the future here. Which parts of it interest you the most? Is it running with a Palentonga of Quaz and trying to lay waste around you in that regard? So I definitely have been appreciating where the run has gone us so far, but we're in damnation territory here, so I'm going to just absolutely blast the crap out of that buddy. Out a second thought here. It's nice having a lot of charges of wands because you can afford to use them a little bit more flippantly than you otherwise might if we were desperate and holding on to them for last resorts. And here we go. We find ourselves the final section. Final vault of elf, as it were, with more demonologists than I would like to see to start off, to say the very least. But we can switch over to our javelins here. We're up to 6.7 in throwing, so that's not too bad. And what I think I'll do is take advantage of some piercing attacks here, try and hit both those sons of guns at once. Fortunately, didn't pan out all that well. What else do we have at our disposal? Condenser vein, not exactly the situation I'd like to use it in. Alternatively, there is a stairway, and we could take this first batch with us up a bit. Torment could be coming any day now. It's exactly perfect timing there on the Tormentor friend, as they just keep hitting us with halving our health. Unfortunately, we can deal with the Tormentor for the most part. And in fact, maybe I should have dealt with them instead of running away, done a quick like Ice Blast or something like that. You're what I'm scared of. We have our 1 pip of fire resistance, so this is at least half the 25. But if we get our health halved again, and then hit by the Sun Demon, that's a recipe for disaster. I'm gonna risk 1 more step, 2 more steps. Let's head upstairs. Because summons can't follow us at the very least, so we're safe in that department. And we can just heal up, hoping that the demonologists come this way a bit. Not quite, eh? Make it too easy in some regards, I'm sure. But that's fine. We can definitely hold our ground here, let them come our direction a bit. Doing some special targeting, making sure we're hitting who we want to here. And this is where we pull out that piercing once more here. Scroll Fog helps with Elven Blasters, definitely. Yeah, something that we'll have to keep in mind, especially as we continue our way through here. You know what? I'm just going to get out of there. That does not look like a fun situation whatsoever, and we can just wait out those summons. Yeah, unfortunately, the Demonologists are our main concern here, and the best way to deal with them is probably to bring them upstairs one at a time, just like this, and just like that. Take out the Demonologist, take out the Elementalist, bada boom, bada bing.